Hello, my name is Sam Auksher. I'm the president of U.S. Figure Skating. I'm also an ISU judge for singles and pairs. I've judged many nationals and fortunate to have judged the Olympic Games in Sochi. We'd like to take this opportunity to discuss professionalism in officiating in your interactions with fellow judges, skaters, and parents.
Hi everybody, I'm Chris Arneson Cutler. I am an official with U.S. Figure Skating, have been one for 39 years. I serve as a judge and a referee, and I've served on a number of committees and on the board of directors. So I think it's really important for our officials to remain positive and friendly in demeanor when we're officiating, but there is not a barrier, but there should be some space between the officials and certainly the competitors. So I try and give feedback only if there's a parent or a coach in the room with me. I think that's very important. And I give sort of high-level feedback. If someone wants something more, we can probably do that via the coach in an email or something, but I don't want to interact too much with the skater because that's just not my role. And while I don't want the skaters to be in any way intimidated or afraid of the officials, there is just and should be some space between the athletes and the officials because we serve different roles.
Hi, my name is William Tran, and I've been an official for about 8 years. It's very important to always maintain boundaries with skaters, athletes, especially those who are minors. I still skate myself, so I'm often at the rink, and there are minors and skaters, parents, who are always around and who you do become friendly with and you do become social with, and that's okay. But you still also have to maintain that boundary, remembering that you're likely going to be judging that skater at some point. Or even if you're not going to be judging that skater at some point, you still hold an official title. And so there's still that power dynamic. There's still the fact that they may misinterpret something that you said, they may misconstrue something that you said, or they may repeat something that you said to someone else and attribute it to you. And so I always, I don't make any comments about their skating.
Is following proper procedure. It's not appropriate to talk directly to a skater. It really is the coach that's the direct teacher, communicator with the skater. I always make sure that the coach is present with me. So it is something that to me should just be standard procedure. That way it ensures that everything is clear for the skater and the coach understands what I'm looking for.
There has to be a boundary between the official and the skater. Too personal a relationship makes it very hard to be objective, or there may be a perception on the part of other skaters, parents, and coaches that you're not objective. And that absolutely undermines your integrity, not just as an official, but of the judging panel and of the sport in general. The skaters need to know that the judges are being fair and objective.
Social media can be a great tool for officials. It just has to be handled very carefully. I think it can be a great way to highlight achievements and also give news of what's happening within U.S. figure skating and also your respective clubs.
Well, I'm a very cautious user of social media because in my professional life as an attorney, I saw many people have very unhappy circumstances and results because of use of social media, maybe in a day that they were having a bad day or they were just upset about something and expressed it on social media and then later regretted it. So I have a very low profile on social media. I certainly don't post things about figure skating. Occasionally people will post about being at an event, and I think when we're at the championships that's kind of fun to say we're here, but certainly never about an athlete, never about a performance, never about a competition. I just feel that crosses the line and could raise some questions of bias or conflict in a way that I just don't want to raise that concern for anybody. So I'm pretty quiet on social media.
We need to be very vigilant and cognizant of what we're saying, on whether it's verbally or on social media in particular, because it's out there forever and never goes away. You know, you may, someone may see something 10 years from now that you'll really regret, and so you just need to be always aware that you know, you're under that microscope, and social media just makes it very, very difficult to recover when you make a mistake.
I don't use social media. I feel that my level of professionalism may be compromised, and I don't want to put myself in that position of compromising anything I do professionally. So I do not do that. I also, if you have ever been on an event with me where I'm the referee, I ask that everybody stop their social media during the course of the event. I feel that I want an official to fully concentrate on the event, and it is not professional nor appropriate to be making comments on social media while you're officiating.
I do believe that officials can promote and support the sport through social media. If you're very comfortable with social media, it's great when you can promote that nationals are happening right now, or that sectionals are happening right now, or solo dance final, showcase, all of those things. You can promote it, but we have to always remember that you're an official. And so you have to promote it in a very specific and really kind of generalized way. So if you're disappointed by results from nationals or from solo dance final or from whatever event, you really should not be, you cannot be posting about that on social media because you are an official. You represent the organization. But just make sure that you're always editing yourself and drawing those boundaries.
You know, building an inclusive environment takes work because most of us have grown up in different eras of skating. I skated in different centers, and those people I skated with are still in the sport. A lot of them are officials, a lot of them are coaches, and they're still very, very dear friends of mine. And we talk about our time together and remember when this happened at this competition. So it's very easy for us to forget there are other people in the room that have not had that experience, have not shared those same things. And we need to include them in the conversation and ask them, did you ever have that happen? When we were training here, we did this and that. Try to include everyone, that everyone can feel that they're part of the sport. And if we lead by example, I think everybody's going to follow us.
One of U.S. Figure Skating's missions is to increase diversity throughout our sport. And you know, at all levels of skating. And I think especially when you're looking at skaters who are coming in at the grassroots level and they're competing for the first time and it's a scary experience. And to see someone who, if you're a BIPOC skater, to see an official who's also a BIPOC gives you a sense of familiarity, a sense of comfort. And I think it lends itself well to them having a great competition experience, which then can carry over to keeping them in the sport and a lifetime love of the sport. So that's just been such a positive for me, and I've been so proud of U.S. Figure Skating for increasing diversity in that way.
There are so many times where I'm on a panel and I'm the only BIPOC official on the panel. And while some folks aren't bothered by that, there are others who do feel uncomfortable when they're the only ones on the panel. Or sometimes that contributes to what's called imposter syndrome, where it's like, wait a minute, no one here looks like me, no one has the same background as me, what am I doing here? Do I belong here? And so it's very important in those circumstances to make sure you reach out and connect with folks who might be feeling a little bit isolated or left out.
The way you interact with other officials is very important. No matter what the level, we're all volunteers. We all deserve respect. We all have the same goals to support our athletes. So it shouldn't matter whether you're an Olympic judge or a low test judge. We're all very important and part of the same environment, and we need to treat each other with respect.
Respecting differences and others' points of view. Encourage diversity in officiating. Be very thoughtful of how your words can affect others, especially other officials, positively or negatively. Make a point to talk to an official that you don't normally see, or that you feel is maybe new at a competition, and to encourage them to feel comfortable.
And always invite our newer officials, those who are developing, to come sit at the table, to ask questions, maybe go over some things if they would like to. Just be open and happy that they're there, because we certainly need officials to join us.
When traveling for U.S. figure skating, I feel that all officials should behave according to U.S. Figure Skating's code of conduct. And I think that this applies to all aspects of the competition, on the stand, in the hospitality room, on the transportation shuttle, at the host hotel, because officials are highly visible and skaters, parents, coaches are always watching.
Listen, we all work very long hours, and so after a competition has ended, after a long test session has ended, whatever it may be, it's fine to get together with your colleagues and friends and relax, and to have a drink or socialize, have a snack. But it's very important to remember, especially if you're in a public place, that you can be heard, and that you're likely in a setting where there's someone else who is familiar with skating who's in that public space with you, because obviously you're there for a competition or a test session. And so you have to be very mindful about what you talk about, but also be careful about talking about the LOC. The LOCs work very hard to put on these competitions, and maybe there's something that didn't live up to your expectations. There's a productive way to go about that. You can always give feedback to the LOC afterwards via email or a phone call. Doing it in a restaurant or a bar where others can overhear you is not the right place for that.
We are sort of always on when we're at an event. We are always in that official space. So even though we want to have fun with our colleagues who are officials who we probably haven't seen for a little bit and are good friends with, we want to relax and have fun when we're not on an event, either in the judges' room or at the hotel, in the bar locally, or at the restaurant. But there's always the opportunity for people to see and hear what we are saying. So I think you just have to understand that. And in my professional life, I taught a lot of classes on sexual harassment, and I used to say to people, if you don't want it published in the newspaper the next day, probably don't say it at work. And it's kind of similar here. If you don't want somebody posting it on social media about you, or saying it to their coach or someone else, did you know what I heard? I think you shouldn't say it. I think we would need to keep that professional demeanor to some extent, even when we're sort of off the stand. And particularly in the hospitality room, because the people in there who are working so hard to feed us and make sure we have water and coffee and everything we need, those are parents of skaters who are likely competing right then. And you just don't want to hurt anyone's feelings.
I've seen and heard where a judge has said something about a skater in the hospitality room, and the parents were volunteering, staffing that hospitality room, and heard everything in a very unfiltered format. And so it just gives a very negative view of, again, all the officials at the competition.
And of course, everybody wants some downtime. I fully understand that. But we need to be cognizant of that time too. That is time that all eyes continue to be on us.
So officials should exemplify the core values of U.S. figure skating.
I am hoping that we're all learning how to appropriately respond when somebody says something or does something that is inappropriate or just uncomfortable. And you can
I think that they're capable of doing the next time.
I'm there to be completely objective, to score what I see actually performed and not worry about any past performances or history, and to be absolutely at the top of my game when it
organization, even at the most local competition, the smallest competition, the shortest test session, it doesn't matter. Every single sanctioned event, you are a representative of U.S. figure skating.
You have a responsibility. You certainly have a commitment to the sport. You wouldn't be here for so many years and doing what you do if you're not committed with a passion, but you have a responsibility. You have, most of all, a responsibility for the integrity of the sport and to protect our athletes. Make sure the field of play is fair.
For me, I had been an official for nearly 40 years because skating was so important in my life growing up. I really learned many lifelong goals and experiences through skating, and I made lifelong friends. And the only way that others can have that experience in skating is if people officiate, because we don't have competitions or programs or any of those things without officials. So I am here to give back to the sport because the sport gave me so much.
Appreciate the experience because it's fun to be at a competition and watch great.